and welcome to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Today, I want to talk to you about a concept, a project concept that my partners and I came up with, and kind of where our thinking was, and why we came up with it, and a little how it fits into some of the changing elements in our current society. This is Building Solid Foundations. We are on KCAA 1050 AM, and if you miss us on the regular radio, catch us on the streaming services. We're on the Building Solid Foundations channel. That's a free channel you can load onto Roku, onto Amazon Fire, onto Android. We're not on Apple yet. We'll get there at some point, but right now we're on those streaming options, and we're probably on your favorite podcast platform. We're on quite a few of those as well, and you'll catch us on YouTube too. So Building Solid Foundations. That Building Solid Foundations channel, by the way, has a lot of other really great shows on it, not just this one. So let's get into what I was talking about on projects. And a lot of this, let me give you a background. As you know, if you've been listening to the show, you know that my company, we do land acquisition, we do entitlement processing, we do development, and we do it in multiple states across the country. But, you know, I'm also a person. I have a family, and I'm, you know, friends and neighbors and those type of things. And I'm looking at some of what we saw going on over the last few years with some of the things that happened in our society with the COVID and those things, the pandemic, and kind of how that informed what's going to change and where are we going and how do we solve some of these problems. So one thing I was thinking of was my own mother. She's in her upper 80s. And I was thinking, okay, so what happens if she had to move out of the house she's in and go into someplace else? Where would she go? What would that look like? And I know she has friends that were living in the traditional retirement kind of communities, the senior communities, that where COVID broke out in those places, and it just rampaged the place, and they were, you know, kind of locked in. They became sort of prisons as they were quarantined, where their family couldn't come in and they couldn't go out. They have the small rooms in there, which usually is mitigated by all the common areas. There's usually a lot of opportunities for gatherings and talking and recreational events and maybe sewing rooms and workshops and those kind of things they can do. And all that got taken away, where basically they got stuck in their rooms, which is probably not one of the best things for them, because fresh air is a good thing for that and for just life in general. So, and that also leads to depression. So I was thinking about what would happen to my mom in a situation like that. Would she be exposed to these diseases? Would she be able to visit? Would she be locked away? And knowing that's a growing demographic, the retiring generation is probably the largest growing demographic in our country right now, and people are living longer. And so we also look at, in that generation, there's a lot of people that are hitting retirement, whether they want to or not, because of age. They're getting to that point where they can no longer do everything they always did, even if they're going to live longer. But, you know, you get older, your energy goes down, and you're not physically as capable as you were. And are they financially ready? A lot of people aren't financially ready to retire because with recent things in the stock market, values go down in your retirement account. Maybe you didn't start saving for retirement until a little later. Remember, the generation retiring is the boomer generation. They were the forever young generation. This is the generation that wasn't ever going to get old. They have songs about, you hope I die before I get old. I remember that old song from The Who. And that's fine. But what that means is it's not on top of your mind when you're in your 30s to start saving for retirement. So I'm thinking through all these things, and my partners and I are also talking about other things that were coming up. So we're looking, okay, there's a growing demographic. There's a need for a humane and affordable housing options for seniors, where they don't get stuck in a building, if that ever happens again, where it kind of becomes a prison because of quarantine issues. Not all of them can afford the Del Webb lifestyle, the golf course, single-family home, and the resort. That's a very expensive way to live. It's fantastic, but it's on the pricier side. And so we're saying, what are some options out there? Well, we are also looking at the same time where we as a company, we're doing all these projects that return good ROIs, actually, pretty high. But what we don't have is a lot of cash flowing, because we were buying and selling, do flipping basically, but large land projects. And we're saying, okay, so we also need to add to that portfolio long-term hold projects that generate cash flow, rental type stuff. And I don't want to do onesie twosie stuff. And we didn't want to do your typical apartment buildings. And we thought, well, if you're going to do those, well, you might as well do them where you do a large number, not a small number of renters, so that you can afford a property manager. There's economies of scale. So we're thinking through that too. And then we're looking in California, where I'm from. That's where company's not based in California. We're out of Florida because that's where one of the partners lives. But two of us live here in California, and we were doing projects here in California at the time. Now we're doing primarily projects out of state. At that time, we were still doing most of our stuff in California, and the state passed some renters' rights laws. And I'm not going to get into the politics of that, right, wrong, or indifferent, but I will say that it made it more difficult for what we were talking about doing, about wanting to have some more rental income properties. They're going, okay, so that means as the landlord, we've got more challenges here. So we thought, how do you mitigate that? And we thought, seniors tend to not, most of those problems go away. Why? Well, you don't have to worry about eviction when you have seniors. Nobody evicts seniors. You don't need to. If they're not paying rent, there's some reason, and there's probably nonprofit groups out there and a couple dozen government agencies that can step in and help. And so that isn't a problem at that point. If they can if they're just not remembering because cognitive decline, they don't remember to pay the rent, well, then the family has to move them to assisted living somewhere. They're not going to be independent living anymore. So we're looking at those things. Seniors don't tend to party late into the evening with loud noise. They're not parking their cars on the lawn. There's just not a lot of the issues that you deal with general renters and all the horror stories you hear about from property managers. Now, having said that, I've had rentals, and most of the renters were fantastic, but I've had a couple of horror stories of my own that make me not want to deal with that kind of stuff again. So seniors mitigates a lot of that because it's just not something you deal with. Most seniors, when they move into a place like that to retire as independent living, they want to stay there pretty much until they can't anymore. They don't want to move around. That's just like where they want to put their roots down and live out their days. And so you don't have the high turnover you have. It's not as transient as most of your typical apartment type communities. So we were looking at all those things. And at the same time, we had an issue where the agency we were working with in California, we had 3 or 4 projects in escrow that we were looking at. Maybe this would be the experimental place to do these communities and try them out. And I'll explain what they are and what the design elements were. But that particular city, we were having such hassles getting through very simple stuff and California was making it a lot tougher to get approvals on things. Now, remember, this is a state that wants, statedly, the high priority is affordable housing. Yet, anybody that tries to do affordable housing has hoops to jump through that are crazy. Just a lot of regulatory issues to go through. And again, I've talked before on the show, I'm not opposed to things like CEQA and regulations so that we don't have completely unchecked and rapid development without mitigating for things like traffic and noise and school burdens and those kind of things. But it gets to a point where it's hard to work anymore. And again, out of state, I've learned that it can work very well without all the cumbersomeness that the state of California throws on it. So that's all I'll say about that. I don't want to be negative about it. And I still live in California. I love it. But every place has its ups and its downs and its challenges. So we actually ended up dropping escrows on multiple properties and moving the concept out of state and found it worked out very well there. So what is this concept that we're looking at that solves these issues of how do you deal with if another pandemic comes and you don't want seniors getting kind of stuck in what becomes kind of a prison? They're stuck in their room. How do you allow them to have kind of their own space and their own and sunshine and fresh air? Their families can still come visit them. How do we deal with this growing number of retirees that's coming and that's going to need housing, and a lot of them don't have that expensive house to sell where they can use that money for retirement. They don't have a lot of money in retirement account. They need to live on an entry-level type retirement, and they're not equipped to buy. They need to rent. They need to be a renter, but they need to have a good place to rent. That's kind of their own place. How do we solve our problem in a business standpoint of providing cash flow instead of just ROI from selling things? How do we get around some renting to seniors so we don't have a lot of the tenant management issues, the property management issues. And we came up with this idea that we've called them cottage clusters and cottage communities and those kind of things. But we kind of settled on cottage communities. And these are build to rent single family homes for seniors, single story, set in a park-like setting. And, but they're owned by the property management company. And that's what we came up with. So, there's a lot of reasons why we went down the path we did, but I want to talk about what we designed and why we did it and how it's working out so far. And just kind of share that sometimes the problems you come up against, those obstacles, those things that are going to prevent you from getting to what you want done, or the things that you look at that are just not business issues, but just human issues, things, what do I do about these people in my family? What do I do about neighbors? What do we do about making sure that we have a humane way for seniors to live comfortably? You can solve community issues, you can solve societal issues, and you can solve business problems all together if you come up with a good solution. I'm going to get into the details of that and explain how we design these things and why we do them the way we do and what our hope is for them. I'm Steve Matley. This is Building Solid Foundations, and what I'm talking about today is our concept that we call cottage communities for seniors. We'll be right back after the short break on KCAA.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Tired of qualifying your leads and not getting the right clients for you? Join the finest women in real estate and learn how to attract the best clients and increase your referral network. Call now at 951-378-5316. 951-378-5316 and become one of the finest women in real estate.
Real Men of Real Estate.
Men of Real Estate radio show here on KCAA.
Boats, mortgages can be purchased.
All of us want to live in thriving communities.
Basically, go to the radio station, KCAA radio.com.
You're listening to Fabulous Lifestyle Radio. I'm your host, Ricky Perry, and we are affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and Sports, where we broadcast over 5 million households in the greater Los Angeles area. If you missed our previous shows, you can watch us on our streaming networks on Roku TV, Amazon Fire Stick, and the Android app.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. Today I'm talking about project concept that my partners and I developed. And I will say that when you come up with new ideas, so-called new ideas, and develop something innovative, there's usually not a lot actually new about it. What you're doing is taking a lot of other ideas and concepts and putting them together kind of in a slightly new and different way. I'll give you an example of that. I remember before 2007 or 8, there was no smartphones. We just had the cell phones, the flip phones. And now everybody's got a smartphone. And a smartphone is generally hailed as one of the greatest inventions of human history. But honestly, there was nothing new or innovative about it. There already were cell phones, and there already were cell phones with cameras, and cell phones that texted, and cell phones that had address books in them. There were cell phones that could access the internet. There were PDAs back then. If you're probably under 30, you don't know what a PDA was. Personal digital assistants, what they called them, and it basically was the pre-runner to a cell phone. It was like a cell phone without the phone and text feature on it. And it was something that you could access the internet. It kept a calendar on there. You had to-do lists on there. You could use it for writing notes. There were some applications you could put in there, not like the apps they have on smartphones now with all the choices we have. They just weren't available back then. But it did those kind of things. But it was not a phone. It did not make phone calls. It did not text. And most of them did not have cameras in them either, to my knowledge. So I had my cell phone and I had my PDA, and they did most of what my smartphone does now. So when Steve Jobs put the idea of the iPhone together, he basically took those ideas. He took existing devices that were out there, and there was also the MP3 players, the iPods, those kind of things, that existed as well. So the idea is put all that together into one device. And the obstacle to that was, can you find a large enough processor to handle all that, and then a battery that will power that and still be small enough, last long enough to make it worthwhile, and be small enough to fit in the device. That was the big challenge. So really the processor and the battery were the things that needed to get innovated to make all that happen. And they did. And they pushed it and they made it happen. And now, of course, it changed the entire world. It was a complete digital revolution. We kind of had the same idea with the Scottish community. We took ideas that were already out there. There were already communities that were kind of set in a park-like setting. There was motor courts. There was some of the nicer of the mobile home communities out there. There were garden-style apartments. That existed. There were build-to-rent existed, where people would build homes, and instead of selling them, they'd rent them. The person who built them kept them as an investment and became a property manager instead of selling them off for the profit. And so that existed. That's a lot of the amenities that we came up with. So nothing was new. The senior single-family home community existed. You know, Del Webb's are all over the place. They've been around for decades, and they do an excellent job. Of course, they're expensive. They're higher end because they provide great things like golf courses and clubhouses and tennis courts and classes and all kinds of great amenities that they do. And we were looking at, okay, how do we box all those different ideas up and provide them on an entry-level, affordable level to seniors? How do we do that? And so that's what we came up with. Okay, let's do build-to-rent single-family homes for senior citizens. A lot of seniors don't have a down payment or the credit scores to buy something because they're not coming out of another property or something that maybe they've rented their whole lives. So they don't have that option. Also, it kind of frees them up from having the burden of home ownership. They don't have to maintain anything. That's the other thing. So a lot of times seniors have a home, and the reason they can't stay is they can't maintain things. They can't get on ladders. They can't go down on their hands and knees and crawl under a cabinet. They can't get up on the roof. And so in this case, obviously a property manager is maintaining everything for them, everything inside, everything outside, being taken care of for them. We want to make sure that they don't lose the benefits of having their own, say, yard. So some of the things we came up with were things that we call low-cost, high-value amenities to the community. And the reason is golf courses and swimming pools and clubhouses, those are expensive to maintain, and it makes the price go up. And the whole goal was, can we keep this affordable? Can we keep this at an entry-level rate so that seniors can afford to live here that otherwise would not be able to live in their own place? And so the amenities we came up with are kind of more walking trails and dog parks and outdoor game areas and gathering and like barbecue areas, gazebos, community gardens, those type of things where they can have a lot of what they would have had in their own yard, but now it's more community style. Also, one of the big needs when you survey senior communities is they want community. That's the key. Community is their connection. They don't want to be isolated. So because they don't have families at home anymore. And so they already feel alone enough. They're not going to a work site every day where they deal with people. They don't have family around them because their kids are raised and gone. So they need that human interaction. And so we've designed these, and I'll get into design guidelines in a little later, but we've designed these so that all of it feels like a tight-knit neighborhood community where there's a lot of interaction. So those are the kind of amenities we put in. And we looked at the market out there. And I'm part of the National Association of Home Builders. And I go to the conferences, and I like to on the committee that's the 55 plus, which is kind of the senior housing group, and they talk about what the trends are, what the designs are, and the 55 plus housing is dominated by basically two things. One is, as I mentioned, kind of the Del Webb type community. And there's other companies out there besides Del Webb, by the way. There's the Four Seasons, and there's Robeson Ranch is out in Arizona near where we're doing projects. Same idea where it's a golf course, houses on a golf course with a clubhouse that has a great restaurant in it, and it's got a lot of activities and tennis courts, and it's a country club lifestyle, which is great for retirees, but it does not come inexpensively. So that is on one end, and the other end are kind of what I call dormitories. These are those multi-story buildings, senior communities, floor after floor after floor, where people live in these little, 400 square foot rooms, maybe has a small little kitchenette in it and a bathroom and their bed and a chair, and then that lack of space is mitigated usually by common areas. There's a cafeteria and there's an auditorium where they do entertainment and shows and dances, and there's maybe shops where they can do sewing or wood shop or crafts and that kind of stuff. They have a lot of activities, lessons and workshops and those kind of things that come in. They do off-site tours. And so there's the dormitory style. For us, we looked at the dormitory, as I mentioned, as something that when the quarantine happened, they kind of became like prisons. And again, not knocking them, they did what they felt they had to do at that time for safety, for health, but it wasn't pleasant. And if the seniors had their own homes, their family can still come visit. They can go outside, get fresh air. And so we designed these so that now we have entry-level homes. And we designed them dual master suites. And the reason we did dual master suites was because we're trying to keep it affordable. If you had two single seniors, they could split a place if they wanted to, and each have their own master bedroom, master bath, and then they share the kitchen and they share the living area. And that makes the rent half of what was already affordable on the affordable end. And so that was our whole concept, was based around trying to keep it affordable. Alternatively, that could also be, say, a couple lives there and that's now a room for a caregiver to live there if they need a little bit extra help, or perhaps a guest room if family comes to visit or friends or that kind of stuff. So that was the idea. Entry-level, dual master suite homes. We're talking, 11, 1,200 square feet, not tiny homes, but nothing huge. Again, we're trying to keep these affordable. We're trying to keep these easily maintainable, where they don't have to kill themselves trying to keep them clean. The property manager will keep all the maintenance up on it, as far as keeping things in working order, roofs, walls, fixtures, all that kind of stuff, and they don't need to take care of the yard. They're not burdened by having to mow lawns and trim things and cut and dig and weed and all that type of stuff. Now, if they like working in the garden, because a lot of seniors do, it's therapeutic for them, then that's the idea of that community garden as an amenity. And both vegetable gardens and ornamental gardens, where they have an area where they can do that if that's something they like to do in an organized way, and they can do it in community. They can do it with other people. So that was what we looked at as, here is an alternative. It is affordable. It's an entry-level price point, and it can even be more affordable if two seniors share a place. It is rent, so they don't need a down payment. They don't need to be responsible for the ownership and the upkeep and the maintenance of the place. They don't need to worry about down payments and credit scores. It is built around a community where they have a tight-knit small community within where they live, and then that's part of a larger community that all links together. It's not a multi-story dormitory type setup, and it's not an expensive country club style. We also always selected areas to put them in where there are community amenities in the city. So what I mean by that is medical services nearby, shopping nearby, entertainment nearby, movie theaters and bowling alleys and those type of things, restaurants that they may want to go to, so that they're not isolated. We're not going to build these in the middle of nowhere. These will be in cities that have the basic facilities that are necessary for seniors to live and be a part of the community. So I'm going to get into some of our specific guidelines, design guidelines that we looked at in order to achieve all these goals. And then we'll wrap up and I'll tell you a little about some other ideas we've had kind of for the same market and to solve some of the same problems, but in an entirely different way. So we're going to talk about some of these design guidelines when we get back, and hopefully you'll find them interesting. And if you have comments, I'm always open to hear back from people if they think it's a good idea or not. So you're welcome to contact me if you think, oh, you should have done this or you should have done that, or I think that's a great idea, or my parents said if you did this, they would be interested. We're always interested in those kind of comments. So this is Steve Matley on Building Solid Foundations. We're talking about kind of alternative senior communities that may solve a lot of different challenges we have.
Looking to attract your target market without soliciting or doing the cold calling? Call Marie Waite and book your consultation. Branding gives you the power to create a unique and classy perception of your business for your target audience. A marketing plan without the right branding will always cost more, take longer, and tend to deliver subpar results compared to a well-branded business. Marie Waite is a branding strategist who formulates effective marketing and media programs to promote your business in building your name, brand, and legacy. Marie has over 10 years of experience and a proven record of creating strong brand content for business owners, entrepreneurs, and companies using her creative ideas, recommendations, and innovative programs. Book now at mariewaite.com or call her at 951-378-5316, 951-378-5316.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about. So join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Hello everyone, I am Lynette LaRoche here at Fabulous Lifestyles Foundations Radio Show. So excited to have you here with us. We have so much to offer you, and we have amazing guests that we bring on every Sunday. So we want to make sure that you tune in on KCAA Broadcasting Network, because remember, this is all about having a fabulous lifestyle, and it can be yours to be had. So tune in every Sunday to Fabulous Lifestyle Foundation Radio. And we also have other radio shows that would be of interest to you as well in fashion, fun, and finance. I am Lynette LaRoche, and remember, you need to build a house before you can bring in the furniture.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. I'm your host, Steve Matley. About a couple of years ago, I was having a conversation with one of my business partners. He's a little older than I am. I've known him for many years, and we were joking about a project. And we said, if this doesn't go through, what would we do? What would we do if everything turned off and tanked? I mean, this is kind of when the pandemic was coming up. And we're thinking, what if this killed everything we're working on, and all the stuff we have in these projects went south? What's the alternative? And we kind of joked and said, that idea we talked about with that potential senior community, I think we need to design this for a place that we would live if we ever needed to. And that was really a lot of the idea of coming out. Obviously, we don't plan on doing that. We hope we do well. But we thought, we need to design a place that we would want to live. That if that was, that it would be the best option out there, and a desirable option, not a settling option. Something that would be a pleasure to live in a place like that if you were limited on resources and funds. And so we thought about, okay, so what does that place look like? We know we can't do the really, really expensive finishes and amenities and large homes and those type of things because that's not affordable anymore. But what can we do to make it so that it's extremely desirable and very comfortable and a good lifestyle for someone that has to live more on an entry level type income? And so here's what we came up with. We looked at park-like settings, and there are, again, there's no new ideas. There's some projects that we looked at up in the Northwest where they were not for seniors. These were 2-story, smaller homes built around kind of a natural sort of area, a grassy gathering area. And we liked it. Obviously, the 2-story doesn't work for seniors. And the kind of amenities you put in for seniors is different than what you put in for young adults or families and those kind of things. But it was an affordable option, and it looked really nice. It looked like a very pleasant place to live, a great place. And we thought, okay, so park-like setting. Let's figure that out where homes are set around a lot of green space, no fences, no walls, none of that stuff that blocks everybody off. It's like everybody's sitting, on the edges of a nice little park. Again, smaller single-family homes, not connected together, so there's a separation. You have your own house. It's not a duplex, triplex, quadplex. It's not a multi-story building. It is a single-family home, a smaller home, but a single-family home that's comfortable, and you have light coming in from all angles. You have a porch. You have, you can get fresh air. Get sunshine. It's your own place. It is your own place. No elevators to go up and down. Again, we talked about earlier the dual master suite idea. 2 master suites so that 2 seniors could share a place and really reduce their rent. Or you can have a caregiver, or you can have a guest room there with its own bathroom with that room. And then garages. So one thing I haven't talked about is, what about garages? Well, we decided, for a lot of seniors actually don't need cars, and a lot do. For a lot of them, the car is their freedom, and they don't want to give that up, and I don't blame them. On the other hand, you do have some seniors that either don't want to drive anymore or cannot drive anymore, and they don't need a garage. And so the idea was, let's build this out where garages are optional. We have them available if needed for some units, and other units do not have them for those that don't need them. They don't need that where that garage would normally be connected to the house. That can be a wall with windows, and there's more light coming in. It doesn't need to be a solid wall anymore. And so let's make that an option. So we've designed them so some have garages and some do not. Obviously, the rent would be reflective in whether they have one or not, depending what they need. What you don't want is to have garages that turn into storage lockers. Although we have talked about, and I think we'll do this, is provide areas on site where there are storage lockers that could be rented. And the idea is you don't want, seniors sometimes have a hard time letting go of certain material items because there's sentimental value. And as I get older, I get it. I see that. There's things that remind you of things that were part of your kids' childhood and those things, and you don't want to get rid of them, or things that were passed down, antiques that have meaning to you. Because the people that own them and what you remember about them, those people aren't with us anymore. And so, but we also don't want to turn into hoarding and that kind of stuff going on. So the idea is, can you find a place that safely can store those things, but not have where they have to clutter their own homes up with them? And so yeah, that's an option, and that'd be something that they can rent storage on site without having to go off site to a storage facility if they needed to, and they don't have to clutter up their place. So we looked at that. Garages, storage, dual master suites. We mentioned some of the amenities, the walking trails, community gardens, a dog park, gathering areas. And so when we design this, what it is, there's little individual neighborhoods. And so 10 to 12 units around a common area. And that each common area has some amenity, and maybe has a gazebo, maybe it's got a barbecue area, maybe it's got an outdoor game area, maybe it's got a community garden in it, maybe it's got something. There's something there that the people in that little homes around it have a place to gather and do what they want to do and talk and meet. And then those little community, each of those little neighborhoods of 10 to 12 units are set around a larger common area where you have the bigger stuff. So movies on the lawn type of stuff, outdoor game areas. There can be a dog park in there. There's different things you can do that require a larger area. You can do larger events there if you want to do that, carnivals and those kind of things if they want to do those type of things. You could even invite some of the local senior healthcare providers out, and they could do a healthcare expo or something there. So you have a larger common area that's the center, kind of the central park, I guess, surrounded by these little pods of 10 to 12 single-family homes, each around their own little smaller common area, and each one of those has some amenity. That's a community amenity. Fire pits could be one. So that's we could look at that, and this creates a larger community of small neighborhoods, small tight neighborhoods of, like say, 10 to 12 units, and that's a very tight group that just walk outside next door across the street, and those are your immediate neighbors, and you have a little space to gather there. And then all those collect together into a larger overall community gathering area where you can do much larger gatherings, more events, something more active. There could be pickleball courts. That's a very popular thing right now. Although when I talked about that with our design people, I was thinking I would still design that as tennis courts. That I think you can do 2 pickleball courts on a tennis court. I would probably design that as tennis courts that are adapted to pickleball courts. And here's why. I'm old enough to remember when racquetball was a big thing. Everybody played racquetball. It was a trend. It came and went. Now, most places that had racquetball courts are either gone or they've been converted into some other use. They're used differently. I remember going to a gym where what had been a racquetball court, each racquetball court was now a different room with different kind of equipment in it for circuit training. I remember another community college had a bunch of racquetball courts, and that is now storage. There was an office building that had racquetball courts on the upper floor, and that was converted into storage. So that was a trend. And I'm thinking, okay, pickleball could be the same thing. The hottest thing right now, if you love pickleball, great, enjoy it. But is it sustainable? I don't know. Tennis comes and goes, but it's been around forever. It never really goes away. So my thought was, okay, let's put a couple of tennis courts in, and you can convert them to pickleball courts. And if ever that trend goes away, you can turn them back into tennis courts again. So that was kind of my thinking. We're trying to think of, you don't want to put some amenity in that later becomes something that's non-usable or not wanted. So you want to make sure that it's always going to stay current. So those kind of things can be in the larger area. You can reach out to the community and find ways to do events that are more active, that are in there. Like I said, you could do, kind of healthcare fairs in there. You can have, say, movies on the lawn. You can have groups come in and do concerts. A lot of things, but it'd be outdoor. No need to build a large clubhouse with auditoriums and those type of things. Now, what about the weather? Well, we're doing these in areas that tend to have pretty decent weather. So Arizona and Florida is where we've concentrated. Again, we originally designed this for the California market, and we had a couple of properties in escrow in Southern California to do these. And when the regulatory environment got so arduous that we just couldn't get to first base, we dropped those escrows and moved them to other states. So on a side note, if someone asks you why there's no affordable housing for seniors, remind them that state regulations chased off 2 big projects that would have had those. But, other people can hang out. There's other companies that will put up with that, and they're probably larger, better funded, generally tend to be not as affordable because of the cost in it, but it provides housing. So that's just a little side note. But this is something we're doing primarily in Arizona and Florida, and of course those are 2 places that are naturals for seniors anyways. So that was the design considerations that we went into. And it's turned out, the designs have turned out very well. We have land. We are in the process of moving forward with those, and we are looking forward to getting those approved, the entitlements approved, getting the built out. We have builder partners actually on a couple of them. We got builder partners already locked up that'll work with us on building them out. So we're excited about it, and we're looking forward to within a few years having these online and rented. They say right now the space is raw land. It has to get completely improved and then have the construction put on it. So that's our design criteria. And again, we went back and looked at all those things we came up with and said, does this answer the original problems we had? Does it solve the problem of a growing demographic that may or may not be able to afford the current options out there and or do not want to live in large dormitories? Does this create a situation where if there's another health problem like we had before and people have to quarantine, they can still see their families, they still have their own four walls, they can go outside and get some air and sunshine? Does this is this a humane and enjoyable lifestyle for seniors to live in? Is this the kind of place we would want to live in? And that's where we looked at this design criteria and said, I think this is exactly the kind of place that would not be a bad place to live if I ended up there. And that was our goal. And it solves those problems. Plus it provides rental cash flow to our company, which is one thing we were looking at as well. So we're going to take another break. When I come back, I'm going to talk to you about another option that we came up with, completely different, but really for the same market. And again, it's trying to think of what are some things that we can do to help house this growing demographic of retirees in a new, different, and affordable way. This is Steve Matley on Building Solid Foundations, and we'll be right back after this break.
Tired of qualifying your leads and not getting the right clients for you? Join the finest women in real estate and learn how to attract the best clients and increase your referral network. Call now at 951-378-5316. 951-378-5316 and become one of the finest women in real estate.
This is Steve Matley. Join me every Thursday at 3 p.m. right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations radio talk show. I spent decades as a professional construction manager, business owner, real estate developer, and a college educator, and I enjoy learning new things from other people. We talk a lot about real estate, business, and finance, but we cover a diverse range of other topics as well. Some of the topics we've discussed in the past few months include real estate investing, leadership, higher education, ADUs, marketing using technology, multifamily rental properties, business strategy, entrepreneurship. You never know who may show up or what they may talk about. So join us right here on KCAA for Building Solid Foundations Radio.
Hey guys, it's Damon, Mr. Foxy, Damon Hart, and I'm here with the real men of real estate. And I just want to say, hey, come and watch us this Sunday, 1 p.m. live, every Sunday. Okay, we're going to be on KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. If you got a minute, just tune in. We can't wait to have you here. I'm going to be there. If you can't make it on there, we're going to be at Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, or Android app on Building Solid Foundations channel. So tune in. You know what you got to do in the meantime. Keep it foxy.
Fire Up Connect is the most innovative business networking group, supporting and collaborating with a dozen of small businesses that are interested in building and establishing strong business connections, hosting educational live seminars while carrying out business and community-driven projects, as well as marketing programs as a part of its membership program. Fire Up Connect also offers virtual assistance with a wide range of services including inbound customer support, chat support, appointment setting and email management, graphic designing, video editing, web design and development, social media marketing, e-commerce solution, content writing, and much more. For more information, head on over to www.fireupconnect.com. Fire Up Connect, helping success stories unfold every day.
Welcome back to Building Solid Foundations. This is Steve Matley. Today I've been talking about kind of an alternative idea for senior community that would solve a lot of what we saw as some problems and questions and concerns. And there's another model. So I walked through kind of the design criteria and how it fit the issues that we saw and some of the trends that the retiring seniors say they desire in a place to live. So, and again, both my partners are already in that demographic. They're senior, and I am right behind them, not very far. So we're looking at this as we're talking about their group and my group. That my group's coming up right behind them, and what would we want? So we look at another option. Again, because we were doing some of these in Arizona market, Southern Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tucson, that area. If you've ever been there in the summer, it's a little bit toasty out there. It gets kind of warm, to the triple digits warm. 105 is a cool day out there in the summer. It can get up to over 120 sometimes. And so a lot of people that live there, they are looking for a place to go in the summer to get out of the heat. And so we looked at another concept, and we're deeply involved in that now too. We have a project that we're going through, and this is a place for those people to go to. So let's say you're part of the group of seniors, and you want to live. Maybe you want to live in one of our cottage communities. Maybe you live in a Del Webb kind of a place. Maybe you live in who knows where else. But you live in a house, and you want to get out of town for the summer because it gets oppressively hot. Now, you could go to Newport Beach, San Diego, Santa Barbara, someplace like that for the summer. It would be really expensive. You'd go through a lot of money in a couple of weeks. Those places are not cheap. Or you can do what a lot of seniors do, where they have RVs. They are, vans, RVs, coaches, those type of things that they use to get away with. And also, there are some that actually, that is their retirement. They live in an RV, and they go from this park to that park to that park. And they may have a main park for the winter and a main park for the summer, and then they'll travel in between. And so we thought, okay, so that's a different solution for housing retirees. And it's a great solution. Maybe they are part-time of the year, they're in an RV, and the rest of the time in a house. Maybe they're always in an RV. And so we came up with a seasonal park concept, and not your typical RV park, because we went up and saw RV parks, and we saw some that were strictly your space is gravel, and there's a slab of concrete, and there's utility hookups, and that's it. And those weren't very exciting at all. It was a lot of ugly concrete, no real trees or shrubbery around, not very pleasant, but they were packed with a waiting list. We saw others that were so heavily amenitized. Everything, every kind of thing. It was amenitized like your highest end retirement communities. And that's great too, but it's very pricey. And so we thought, okay, so here we are again. Can we do something that's nice, but also not the most expensive thing out there in the market? And we thought, what if we could do RV spaces that weren't just an RV space? What if they were large enough that you could actually put outbuildings on there, permanent outbuildings? So you could park your coach there if you wanted, or you could buy a park model. Those are fairly affordable. Buy a park model and park it there permanently and hook it up. And then you could create the space of your dreams, and you'd have enough room on that space that you could do an outdoor living room or an outdoor kitchen area if you wanted to, if that's what you like, barbecue area. What if you could build permanent outbuildings that maybe had laundry facilities? Maybe it was a small guest house. Maybe it was storage. You have a golf cart and a couple of mountain bikes in there for when you're there. And then can we design this with a lot of natural shrubbery around the area, keep it as natural as possible, with walking and trail riding trails. People will walk their dogs, they can ride their mountain bikes up and down, and stay exercise. And so we're doing a project in Arizona up in the mountain area that is exactly that. It's a series of 4 different park model and RV parks, 55 plus communities at various levels of amenity and luxury depending on which market, so that they are in the same place and they share some common areas, but they each have their own community and their own style and their own price points. And so we're doing that as well. And there'd also be like some commercial in there so they can provide some basic community amenities. For example, laundry. It's an important thing when you're in an RV. Food, some kind of a convenience store, maybe a small restaurant. And then this would probably have some type of a clubhouse or something. So there's a gathering area, because that's an important thing when you're living in RVs. And we found that there was a pretty strong market demand for that out there, especially for a unique, oversized RV space. where you have a space that's really kind of what would be more like a small home lot. But you park your RV there and you have room again to really customize it and make it your very own. And you own it. You're not renting it. In this case, you own it. It's like in kind of an HOA sort of a setup. And it's got the full utilities in there. You have common areas that the HOA would maintain. And most of the people in there probably would not be year-round. They'd probably be seasonal, somewhat transient, but they have a place to go back to. It's not just pulling in and hooking up, and now I'm a guest. It's your home. It's your second home. But it's a second home where you didn't have to pull the big expensive mortgage and build the home and all that kind of stuff like you would in a lot of condos and those type of places. So that's the second concept that we're doing, and it's to the same market. It's to that same 55 plus market, which is that growing retiree market. And it's a growing retiree market that is looking for solutions to how they're going to live in retirement that may not be as traditional in the past. It's a very active group. It's a group that's going to live longer, and this particular group of retirees, this baby boomer group, they live mostly healthy lives. This is the group that brought us, granola and health food stores and yoga and those kind of things, and to which those of us younger have benefited. We appreciate that a lot, because I remember when I was young, that's not what old people did. They turned 55 years old and sat on their rocking chair and didn't look very good. So I appreciate that group. And so because they're going to live longer and because they're very active, and it's can you provide places for them and they like to be closer to nature. So this is a second concept. There's a lot of ideas out there. There's a lot of great ideas, but I just wanted to focus on two of those things that we've come up with. One, the kind of the permanent residential solution for entry-level renters, but in a very nice lifestyle, and the other for people who need a place to go in the summer and they're more RV type lifestyle. And so that's the two things that we have, two of the things we have working on right now. And I just wanted to share that as different ideas. I'm always open to hearing other people's innovative ideas. I love looking at where people come up with different and unique solutions that help people have a better life and can live longer and more affordably. So I'm Steve Matley. This is Building Solid Foundations. We come to you every week right here on KCAA. You can catch us on Roku, Amazon Fire, or Android on the Building Solid Foundations channel. That's a free channel you can download. Next week, we'll be back with another fascinating guest. And until then, go do something different this time.
Miss your favorite show? Download the podcast at kcaaradio.com.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Show.